So I wrote this down. I said, no matter what you think about class, culture, color, or gender, we are about to talk with one of the most capable, influential, bold, and fearless thinkers ever. And this human being just happens to be a woman.
Oh my goodness.
What is a woman?
And by the way, the theme on all of this is about, again, a very essential point. The freedom to just be oneself. Let people be. At the heart of it, isn't that the point also? You're not harming anyone else. Let people be. Let them exercise their rights that are the attributes of a democracy, by the way. Because, Jen, I do think about it in a way that is about full-on attacks on foundational principles about who we are as a country, and therefore our democracy.
We have fewer democracies in the world today than we did 15 years ago. Fewer. Not more, fewer. Cannot be sustained.
So as Vice President of the United States, I have now met over 100 world leaders. Presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings. One of the things about who we are as Americans representing the United States of America is we can walk in those rooms, chin up, shoulders back, with the earned and self-appointed authority to then talk about the importance of democracy, rule of law, human rights. But the thing about being a role model is people watch what you do to see if it matches what you say. So let us think also about what this means in terms of our standing in an increasingly interconnected, interdependent global world. Let us think about what this means for some young woman who in some nation with a dictator or an autocrat is fighting for women's rights.
Well, can you tell me what a woman is?
No, I can't.
The nature of democracy there are two sides to it in terms of the nature of it. There's a duality. On the one hand, when democracy is intact, it is incredibly strong in terms of the strength it bestows on the individuals in terms of their rights and their freedoms. Incredibly strong in terms of what it does for its people. On the other hand, it's very fragile. Our democracy will only be as intact as our willingness to fight for it.
We are then at a moment where it requires us to have a certain level of faith in the integrity of certain institutions, including democracies. You know, as you said, I have met now with over 100 world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings. When we walk in those rooms representing the United States of America, we walk in those rooms chin up, shoulders back, with the appointed authority, the self-appointed and earned authority, to talk about the importance of rule of law, of democracies. But the thing about being a role model is that people watch what you do to see if it matches what you say. People around the world are watching what's happening in our country.
What do you think
to see
of the
if we are measuring up to our ideals. And then, when we think about the election, and in the context of that, we must understand the duality of the nature of democracy. On the one hand, it's very strong in its nature, in terms of what it does to protect individual rights and freedoms. And there's great strength in that. And on the other hand, it's very fragile. It will only be as strong as our willingness to fight for it. And this is one of those moments.
Do you think the American public understands? To the degree that you're right, if you are, do you think that the American public understands that?
I think at their core they do. I travel our country. I was just in the last couple of days in Houston and Atlanta, D.C. and now New York. Before that, California. I travel our country, and I'll tell you something. They may not talk about it using the term democracy, but they understand the importance of freedom, of liberty, of human rights. You talk about freedoms, but by the way, there is a full-on attack by some against hard-won, hard-fought freedoms in our country. The freedom to make decisions about one's own body. The freedom to love who you love with pride and openly. The freedom to be free from gun violence and of fear, of hatred, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia. There are fundamental freedoms that are at stake right now, and the American people do understand that. And again, I will point to the midterms and the most recent elections, when freedom was on the ballot, be it from Kansas to California, Ohio to Virginia. The American people voted in favor.
Do you think the polls are just wrong?
That's a little too simplistic, with all due respect.
Freedom for us as Americans is very much about one of the essential and important pillars of a democracy. And you know, as vice president, I have now met with over 150 world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings.
So as vice president of the United States, I have now met over 100 world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings.
And when I travel around the world or they visit with us here, one thing has become very clear to me. When we as Americans walk in those rooms, we walk in those rooms with our chin up and our shoulders back, with the self-appointed and earned authority to talk about the importance of democracy.
And it's not hyperbole. The very survival of our planet is on the ballot. Your right to vote is on the ballot. Even the democracy.
And the question is, what are we going to do in our time in the race while we're carrying the baton? And I think everyone here has decided to answer that question, which is to say we're going to fight.
That's right.
We're going to fight.
And when you say we're going to fight, you mean that.
Oh, I do.
Our democracy will only be as intact as our willingness to fight for it.
And the strength of character in real leaders is also measured by the kind of character that has some level of concern and care about the suffering of other people, and then takes it upon themselves to do something about that. And as much as anything, that's the contrast in the split screen that is before us now. That really does extend to the character of who we are as a nation. And all of that is at stake. And let me tell y'all something. We're going to win. We're going to win. We are going to win.
Yes, we are going to win.
We are not playing around.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, trust women, trust our Vice President, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris.
A woman!
I believe 2024 is going to be the most important election we've had since 1864. I mean it. And the reasons are clear. Democracy is on the ballot. Freedom is on the ballot. So my question to you is simple. Are you ready? Are you ready to defend democracy? Are you ready to protect our freedoms? And are you ready to win this election? Let's get this done.